A hacker this good can mess with your credit cards. You can wipe out your bank accounts. You can even cancel your driver's license. But there's no way anyone can kill somebody with a computer.
In 1999, the world was introduced to The Matrix. This sci-fi action masterpiece set the world ablaze with its insane mashup of futuristic head trip, incredible kung fu action scenes, top-notch special effects, gorgeous neo-noir photography, and of course, Keanu Reeves.
Let me out! Let me out! I want out!
I saw this film opening night and was completely blown away, and then saw it 4 or 5 times more that year in theaters, countless times on DVD, and 25 years later, I still consider it a near-perfect film and one of my all-time favorites.
I'm gonna enjoy watching you die, Mr. Anderson.
In the years following, it inspired 3 sequels of diminishing quality, quite a few copycats, and bullet time was suddenly everywhere. But the interesting thing was it seemed to be following an unspoken trend of its own. That is, the technoir films of the 1990s. Heck, this wasn't even the first one of the decade to star Keanu Reeves.
Hit me.
That distinction goes to Johnny Mnemonic, a much, much worse film than The Matrix, but one that still has its cheesy charms. So let's take a step back 3 decades and look at the technoir films of the 1990s.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole?
But first, let's take a quick look at the history of this very specific genre, also known as sci-fi noir, cyber noir, or future noir. It also intermingles a lot with cyberpunk, and where to draw the line can be quite tricky. What we can say is it starts all the way back with one of the most influential films of all time, Fritz Lang's 1927 expressionist silent film Metropolis. Even if you've never seen this film, you've no doubt seen some of its imagery, or your college roommate had the poster on their wall. But you've most definitely seen films inspired by it.
Pay attention to what you're doing!
1965's Alphaville is considered the next significant entry. Written and directed by French New Wave filmmaker Jean-Luc Godard, this film takes place in an undetermined future in which Agent Lemmy Caution enters Alphaville with the mission to track down and destroy the sentient computer Alpha 60 that controls the city with an iron fist.
Quelque chose ne tournait pas rond dans la capitale de cette galaxie.
1973's Soylent Green is the first major American example, in which Charlton Heston plays a detective in a dystopian version of 2022, following a murder investigation into a much greater and stranger conspiracy. I won't spoil the ending of the film, but it's become quite iconic at this point.
Open that damn thing right now, or I swear to God you'll die before he does.
1982's Blade Runner, directed by Ridley Scott, is by far the most influential film of the genre. The photography, set and costume design, and overall aesthetic of the film have been borrowed countless times since. It's so iconic, I don't have anything new to say about it.
Nothing is worse than having an itch you can never scratch.
James Cameron's Terminator and Terry Gilliam's Brazil are also strong 80s entries into the genre, technoir even being the name of the bar Sarah Connor first hides out in, on the run from the Terminator.
I'm at this place on Pico Boulevard called Technoir. I'm really scared. I think that there's somebody after me.
But this idea of combining science fiction with noir stylings really exploded in the 1990s, with entries such as Dark City, Ghost in the Shell, Gattaca, The City of Lost Children, Strange Days, and many others. What was going on in the 90s to make this happen? Was it the novelty of suddenly every home getting their first computer? Was it the rise of the internet? Or the threat of Y2K taking out humanity? I'm not quite sure, but for whatever reason, the sunny hope of 80s sci-fi blockbusters, films like Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, E.T., Cocoon, and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure took a turn towards the dark side in the early 90s. Now, it's often tough to tell where noir meets sci-fi, because they share many of the same elements. So we're looking for films with Dutch angles and dark, hard-shadowed cinematography, where our hero or anti-hero is solving some kind of mystery or caught up in a global conspiracy, with the story featuring a cynical look at the decaying society they live in. If we're gonna go all out noir, they might be doing so while looking like a 1950s detective, possibly meeting a femme fatale along the way. In some cases, we'll hit all of these. In others, maybe just a few of these traits will appear. One thing that every film on this list should have in common is a warning for the future of mankind.
Anybody not wearing 2 million sunblock is gonna have a real bad day, get it?
Starting in 1990, we got Sam Raimi's Darkman. While not a staple of the genre, it does contain many of the elements. At the time, Raimi was best known for his Evil Dead films, but he had dabbled in noir before with his forgotten noir action comedy Crime Wave. Originally, he wanted to adapt the noir-inspired comic book The Shadow, but was unable to secure the rights, so created his own superhero, Darkman, a brilliant scientist who is disfigured by an explosion. He uses his technology to craft faces for himself to track down and kill the mobsters who destroyed his life. While the photography doesn't go all out noir, our hero does don a trench coat and fedora while solving this mystery.
I'm learning to live with a lot of things.
Total Recall sits right on the edge of the genre, not so much in its aesthetics, more so in its twisty, turning plotting and gloomy conspiracy. With Sharon Stone as a badass femme fatale, director Paul Verhoeven had nailed the technoir feel in his 1987 sci-fi action masterpiece RoboCop, and his gloomy look at the future carries over well into this Schwarzenegger-led mind trip. He completed his authoritarian sci-fi trilogy in 1997 with Starship Troopers, but I wouldn't consider that film technoir.
And you expect me to believe you?
Who gives a shit what you believe? In 30 seconds, you'll be dead.
We got a few lesser entries into the genre, like Richard Stanley's debut film Hardware. In this post-apocalyptic cyberpunk film, a scavenger discovers a buried combat robot that rebuilds itself and starts killing people. This film has gained a cult following for its gritty atmosphere and commentary on technology.
Elsewhere in the news, popular support has been swift and loud for the proposed emergency population control bill.
Dark Angel, aka I Come in Peace, is pretty light on the noir, but it's a brainlessly fun sci-fi action film starring Dolph Lundgren as a renegade cop tracking down an intergalactic drug dealer.
What are you gonna do? Tell them we're fighting drug dealers from outer space?
And there was the early Roland Emmerich film, Moon 44, that has some pretty great James Cameron-esque imagery, but the story of Michael Pare as an undercover cop on a mining moon trying to uncover a corporate pirate conspiracy doesn't really hold your attention. In 1991, James Cameron himself returned with one of the biggest and best sci-fi action films of all time in Terminator 2. And since we considered the first Terminator as a seminal film in the genre, I'll add it to the list. But it's not nearly as dark and foreboding as the original film. It feels much lighter and has quite a bit of heart and humor. But overall, it still has a gloomy outlook on technology and the future, what with AI starting a war with the humans and nearly destroying the world. Either this or The Matrix are the best sci-fi film of the decade.
We're not gonna make it, are we? People, I mean.
It's in your nature to destroy yourselves.
We also got David Cronenberg's Naked Lunch, which fits this genre to a T. Based on the William S. Burroughs novel of the same name, this film follows Peter Weller into an alternate 1953 as a bug exterminator who, after ingesting insecticide, has hallucinations that he's a secret agent, with a giant beetle as a boss, who assigns him to kill his own wife. The look of this flick is pure film noir in its photography, set design, and costuming, and sci-fi in its strange hallucinations of alien-like insects. The first half of the film is great, setting up a fun mystery, but then it kind of slogs its way to an unsatisfactory ending.
You're acting like a full-fledged junkie. And it's bug powder, for Christ's sake!
1991 also saw the release of the French film Delicatessen, directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet and Marc Caro. This incredibly clever post-apocalyptic dark comedy follows the lives of the residents of an apartment building who live over a butcher who kills people for their meat. While not following a typical noir mystery, this film has gorgeous photography and a dark cynicism that is undeniable. We also got Eve of Destruction, with Gregory Hines tracking down a killer femme fatale android, in this fairly obvious Blade Runner ripoff.
You people are too much. You know that? I mean, you really do think you're God.
And speaking of Blade Runner, 1992 saw the re-release of Ridley Scott's director's cut. This film originally bombed in 1982, but had been gaining major cult status over the past decade. And Scott was able to re-edit and re-release the film the way he intended it to be, to a ravenous 90s audience.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
Blade Runner's Rutger Hauer also starred in 1992's Split Second as a detective hunting an alien serial killer in a future London, flooded by global warming. The mystery and noir photography is on strong display with this film.
What the hell are you doing here? I'm trying to think. Do you mind? You must be sick laying in all that blood.
Free Jack is a pretty silly Emilio Estevez flick, with him playing a race car driver who gets transported into the future by evil billionaire Anthony Hopkins, who wants to transfer his brain into Emilio's body. It's a pretty unremarkable film, except for maybe Mick Jagger's performance as the billionaire's henchman.
I was just getting used to you. You don't make too many friends in this business.
Who said we were friends?
Lawnmower Man is an extremely goofy movie that could only be made in the 90s. The CGI in this film is a special kind of bad, with Jeff Fahey playing a guy on the spectrum who through some kind of crazy computer science first becomes smart and then some kind of digital god. It has to be seen to be believed.
You're a freak. Your naive idiocy makes me very angry.
There was the low-budget, mostly forgotten film Nemesis, about a cyborg cop in a future dystopia. This is a super fun movie if you're into over-the-top action and silly dialogue. Director Albert Pin made a mess of straight-to-video sci-fi flicks in the 90s, including Doll Man, Arcade, and 3 Nemesis sequels, all that kind of live in the technoir cyberpunk realm. But I won't go into each one of them. In 1993, Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes faced off in Demolition Man. This is a fun film with Stallone playing a renegade cop who, after going too far to try to catch Snipes, is convicted and cryogenically frozen. When Snipes manages to escape in 2032, the anti-violence future is unable to handle his murderous ways, and they must thaw out Stallone to catch him.
Anyway, where the hell did you learn to kick like that?
Jackie Chan movies?
Ghost in the Machine sort of hits the mark, with Karen Allen being stalked by a serial killer whose soul has been transferred into a computer. This film has some serious Lawnmower Man vibes.
Work around computers all day, I'll never understand them.
In 1994, Time Cop has Jean-Claude Van Damme tracking a political conspiracy through time. It's a sci-fi mystery without a lot of the other aesthetics that would make it noir.
I hope you keep trying to get your man. I never quit.
1995 saw an explosion of films of this ilk. We got the return of French filmmakers Genet and Caro, with their much more ambitious film, The City of Lost Children. Ron Perlman is a circus strongman who must track down his kidnapped younger brother, uncovering the mystery of a scientist who steals the dreams of children to slow his aging. The film is beautifully crafted in every conceivable way. It's an absolute must-see of the genre. Strange Days was supposed to be a huge deal as James Cameron's follow-up to Terminator 2 and True Lies. He wrote and produced this tech-noir thriller directed by his ex-wife Catherine Bigelow. The film stars Ralph Fiennes as a former cop, now turned New Age drug dealer. Only instead of drugs, it's salacious memories turned into digital bytes that you can relive over and over again by jacking them into your brain. One of these memories sets him down the path to uncover a murderous conspiracy in a dystopian 1999 LA.
This is not like TV, only better. This is life.
Ghost in the Shell is an anime film about a cyborg policewoman in 2029 who is on the trail of the Puppet Master, a cyber criminal who hacks into the brains of cyborgs to get them to commit crimes. This film is highly influential on the genre, with films like The Matrix borrowing many of its ideas and imagery. There are probably a lot of other anime films that fit this bill, but it's a blind spot in my film knowledge, so I won't name any others.
During my journeys through all the networks, I have grown aware of my existence. My programmers regarded me as a bug.
Sylvester Stallone is back in action in this unintentionally hilarious adaptation of the comic book Judge Dredd. Stallone plays the famous judge, jury, and executioner who is wrongly convicted and must track down the man who set him up in this future dystopia.
Let me guess. Life. Death.
Species is a sci-fi sexual thriller in which scientists receive a transmission from space and decide to splice alien DNA with humans. The result is Syl, who escapes and is determined to procreate with the perfect man. A team of scientists and mercenaries must track her down, with many bloody deaths along the way. It's a bit of silly B-movie fun.
I don't know why I'm here. I don't know who I am, who sent me. Do you? No!
Virtuosity is another film just on the outskirts of the genre, with Denzel Washington as a cop who is tasked to track down VR super serial killer Sid 6.7, played with great fervor by a young Russell Crowe. Is it a good film? No. But is it a fun bit of futuristic cheese? Hell yes.
Cheated. Ooh. Sid 6.7. Electrocution wasn't a part of his weapons menu.
The same goes for Johnny Mnemonic, which is an oddity of a film, where Keanu Reeves plays a data courier who transports secrets digitally tucked away in his brain across the 2021 cyberpunk landscape, narrowly escaping the Yakuza and uncovering a global conspiracy along the way.
I think I want to get out of this rat hole. I want to get online. I need a computer!
1995 was just a nutty year. We also got the absolutely bonkers film Tank Girl, set in the drought-ravaged world of 2033. Lori Petty fights the Eagle mega corporation that monopolizes the last of the world's water supply, headed by the scene-chewing baddie Malcolm McDowell. This is a film I would consider much more cyberpunk than technoir, but I'm kind of playing fast and loose with the rules at this point.
There's a water shortage.
There's your water.
Hackers is pretty hysterical now in its outdated showcasing of technology, but it is still entertaining. As its beautiful up-and-coming cast of hackers get caught up in a corporate embezzlement scheme and must use their tech skills to uncover the truth. I personally wouldn't call this a technoir film, it's more cyberpunk, but while I was researching this topic, it kept coming up, and I thought it'd be negligent not to at least mention it.
Welcome to our show! Hack the planet! Hack the planet! And for those late night hacks.
Lastly, we have 12 Monkeys, which again kind of sneaks in based on the labyrinthian plot and cynicism about the world, more than the film's look. This excellently made film follows Bruce Willis from 2035 back in time to the 90s, where he meets a manic Brad Pitt and his 12 Monkeys gang, who may have released the disease that caused the global pandemic, destroying society in its wake. This is Terry Gilliam's filmmaking at its apex.
She knew I was going to leave the army of the 12 monkeys into the pages of history before it ever even occurred to me.
I was only able to find one film that sort of fit the parameters in 1996, and that is the Maybe It's So Bad It's Good Barbed Wire. Based off a comic book of the same name, this was supposed to be Pamela Anderson's star-making film. She plays Barb, a nightclub owner and bounty hunter, who gets entangled in a plot involving contraband identity lenses that grant passage into Canada, so you can escape America's Second Civil War. The plot is loosely based on Casablanca.
I do believe I'm falling in love.
Get in line.
1997 had a very strong entry with Gattaca. The film noir look is obvious in Andrew Nicole's 1940s-inspired future, where elite humans are designed from conception. Ethan Hawke plays a man who is born without those genetic advantages, but must pose as one, borrowing the genes of Jude Law, as he rises through the ranks of a space exploration corporation, while also evading the detectives who are solving the mystery of the program director's murder. If you haven't seen this film, I highly recommend it.
So you didn't do it after all?
Oh, no, I guess somebody beat me to it.
This was also the year Guillermo del Toro made his American film debut with Mimic. In this dark and disturbing film, children are dying from a disease caused by cockroaches. Mira Sorvino plays an entomologist who designs a bug to kill these roaches. Unfortunately for her and the city of New York, these bugs evolve into something far more deadly. She and a team venture into the tunnels under the city to track down and kill these giant mutant bugs. It's not a great film, but it shows off Del Toro's potential.
A fly can look like a spider. A caterpillar can look like a snake. The Judas evolved to mimic its predator. us.
If it wasn't for Blade Runner, I'd probably call 1998's Dark City the poster child of the genre. It hits the noir beats harder than any other film of the decade. It's a masterclass on what neo-noir films should look like. That's on top of a plot that is pure pulp goodness, with our hero John Murdoch waking up in a bathtub with no memories and a murdered woman in his hotel room. He must solve the mystery of who he is and whether he's the killer, adding in the sci-fi twist of being stalked by an alien-esque group known as the Strangers, who have the ability to make everyone in the city sleep at the same time, except for him. This came out 1 year before The Matrix. Having many similarities, it kinda got lost to time. While it doesn't have quite the same impact as it did in '98, it's still a very well-made film and well worth seeing.
Now you must listen to me. You have lost your memory. There was an experiment. Something went wrong. Your memory was erased. Do you understand me?
No, I don't understand. What the hell is going on here?
This was also the year that introduced us to Darren Aronofsky, with his ultra-low-budget, black-and-white sci-fi mind trip Pi. This film is a bit of a mess of ideas, but it displays that 1990s indie film can-do attitude and revealed to the world a new filmmaking talent.
If you graph the numbers of any system, patterns emerge. Therefore, there are patterns everywhere in nature.
This is the same year Christopher Nolan announced himself with his own ultra-low-budget black-and-white neo-noir film in Following, but it doesn't have a sci-fi bend to it, so I won't put it on the list. Just thought I'd mention it because Nolan definitely likes to play around with the technoir genre himself. Now we're back to 1999 and The Matrix, a film that seemed to come out of nowhere. This was the Wachowskis' second film, their first being 1996 Bound, an independent neo-noir crime thriller that was appreciated by critics and film nerds, but ultimately didn't make a cultural impact. The Matrix, however, became an instant classic. The film follows Neo, a hacker who discovers he and all of humanity are nothing but batteries for an artificial intelligence who has enslaved the world. With the help of Morpheus and his band of karate-kicking hackers, they try to overthrow their AI overlords. The film is gorgeous with beautiful cinematography and top-notch art direction, while also hitting us with jaw-dropping action scenes, and then for good measure tickling our minds with its philosophical musings. It's the perfect blend of everything that makes cinema great.
Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You are a plague, and we are the cure.
David Cronenberg also returned to the genre with Existence, in which Jennifer Jason Leigh plays a game designer who, with the help of Jude Law, must travel into the alternate reality of her game to solve the mystery of why she's the target of assassins. While it has some interesting ideas and visuals, it's sadly one of Cronenberg's lesser films and doesn't fully come together.
What precisely is the goal of the game that we're playing now?
You have to play the game to find out why you're playing the game.
Our final entry is the 13th Floor, where a future computer programmer must travel into a virtual reality version of 1937 to solve the mystery of the murder of the program's creator. The film looks great when it's in the alternate reality of 1937, but beyond that, the film is kind of a disappointment, not living up to the premise, and the mystery is pretty evident from the get-go.
He left a message for me on the night that he died. He knew somebody was trying to kill him.
The sci-fi technoir genre obviously didn't die with the 90s. It continues to this day, with entries in the past few decades like Minority Report, V for Vendetta, Inception, Dread, Looper, and the way better than expected legacy sequel Blade Runner 2049. But what was it about the 1990s that made us want to see so many films of this kind? My guess is that the technological explosion of computers, cell phones, and the internet in the 90s had us all questioning what kind of future we had to look forward to. And these films are a look at some of the ways it could go wrong. But I'd love to read your theories in the comments below. And what films did I miss?
The unknown future rolls toward us. I face it for the first time with a sense of hope. Because if a machine, a Terminator, can learn the value of human life, maybe we can too.
Thanks for watching, Tonglers. Please like and subscribe.